Hi friends, I'm Les Mood, your host. Welcome to the Destination for Innovation series brought to you by GreenTech Network in the city of Bakersfield. Today we're at RE Plus Northern California and we have a special guest. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So beautiful day here in the Bay or San Jose area, and I'm sure the show's going really good. You guys having a good show?
Yeah, we're having a great show, a lot of attendance. I was a speaker yesterday at one of our panels, and that was really great discussion, and it's always great to be at one of these regional events.
Could you share a little bit about yourself and maybe something your associates or the world doesn't know about you?
Yes, so I am a research analyst for the Smart Electric Power Alliance. I mostly focus on transportation electrification, anything related to what are EVs doing, what are utilities thinking about, a little bit on the other side of what should fleets be thinking about, so a pretty wide range of topics. I started working for SEPA 3 years ago, and before that, I attended the University of San Francisco. So it's really great to be back in the Bay. And what a lot of people probably don't know about me is I actually studied biofuels before this. So a little bit different area for vehicle transportation, but I love the whole energy sector and wanted to transition. Went to grad school for that, and happy to be here and thinking what's going on in the future for EVs and things like that.
Absolutely. In terms of your journey, where would you say, or where could you pinpoint that it began and how?
I would say the journey for wanting to be in energy started in high school. I took an environmental class and it became really clear. I think a lot of people in my generation think this too, is that climate change is the big issue for all of us. And so it's a little hard to not want to go into a career where you're contributing to solutions to help combat it. I would say that if we didn't have climate change, I'd probably be a fiction writer. So love writing, and I actually get to use those same skills now talking about technology and getting people to understand how to contribute to the shift and how our society is changing to combat climate change, to embrace new climate technologies and things like that. So it started in high school, took a few turns in the here and there, and ended up here.
Wow, so yeah, a lot of creativity can be applied towards a positive change in climate change. In terms of what you do today and maybe your day-to-day, what are you doing to make the world a better place?
So I write a lot of reports, do a lot of research for utilities. Utilities are great at keeping the lights on. It's a huge job that they have to undertake, and they have to change their business models so quickly that they need to bring in others like SEPA to help them learn more about the industry. So what my team does is we write reports on technology for transportation. We have other teams for microgrids, for policy. So sometimes I help a little bit on those teams, but mostly writing reports, hearing from utilities, making connections for them so that they can learn the best practices and how to accelerate this transition a little bit faster.
So SEPA and the work you do bringing people together is obviously a sort of an art, and there's some struggles in the process, right? Are there some struggles and maybe triumphs in your journey along the way that you could share?
Yeah, I would say that one of our focuses, and we're trying to have more triumph here, is that for a long time, a lot of people were left out of the conversation when it came to energy. There's a lot of inequities, and we're trying to really think of who needs to be in the room, especially with utilities, with vendors, having some cross-industry collaboration to make sure that not only are we addressing climate change issues, this transition, but we're making it equitable and having all the right people in the room. So something we're definitely focusing on, and it can be challenging because it's a lot of people addressing this type of inequity. So we're all learning along the way, and I think each year we get a little bit better, and it's exciting because you know that you can change over time and become even better in this industry.
Speaking of becoming better and learning, what would you like to share as far as some advice for the community?
No one is an expert in the sense that everyone is always learning. So even if you've had someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, there's always new technologies coming out. So never be afraid to learn more, or don't feel like you're the dumb person in the room, because we're all learning. And so sometimes asking the simple questions really gets the conversation going so you can learn more, people can learn more about your perspective. And that gets back a little bit to that equity point, is sometimes your lived experience has a lot of value. And we're starting to find that if you're talking with communities and they're talking about their daily commutes and the energy struggles that they have, and maybe it's hard to make ends meet, that has value to learn from those people that you can bring into the room. So we all have things that we can bring to the table. And that's what I would say for anyone, is that you can contribute to this energy transition and help your community learn more, help it embrace new technologies, and just have some more confidence to get into this.
Yeah, great advice. I love it. Always learning. We're in this together in terms of always learning, right? A lot of opportunity there, and it's a great, industry to be in terms of, hey, we're all learning because it's growing, right? So this next part of the conversation is more of a thought experiment. Obviously, there's some roadblocks and some hurdles in, driving this change that we want to see, but we're going to think about the possibilities. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First question is, what is some low-hanging fruit that people or the society could bite into to make the world a better place?
There is a lot of federal funding coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act, which means that there's a lot of money and opportunity in this. It means that we're going to need to have more community engagement so that they can apply for grants together, start getting some of these technologies like public EV chargers, DC fast charging for fleets, managed charging so that you can actually control all of these. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and tapping into some of the economic resources can be some of that low-hanging fruit to first get your foot into this industry, make it so you're not burdening the community as much in terms of economics, and really start expanding the opportunities.
Mm-hmm. In terms of expanding the opportunities, there are some big challenges, right? What are some of the bigger challenges that we shouldn't ignore, that we should also bite into?
It takes time to do all these things. I hear this a lot for electric vehicles, that people will say that public charging is not at the place that they want to be, or people are hesitant to get into electric vehicles. And sometimes it just takes time and a lot of communication with people. And it's the same part of building community, is that you can't build community in a couple of weeks or a couple months. This is years long communication, growth, learning each other, trusting. And I would say that patience is key, even though we're trying to accelerate very quickly, that you have to be in it for the long haul. And this is true across electric vehicles, across microgrids, any new technologies you're bringing in. You're gonna need to keep going and learn through all those initial challenges and really communicate with your partners who are in on it with you, because it takes time. And that's just a fact.
Definitely. Patience with other people, with ourselves, and with the situation, very important. And in terms of making things happen, what role do you see community playing? You spoke about community building and emphasis there. What does that play?
I would say that this is actually part of the biggest shift in the industry. Before, we had utilities that would provide electricity to a community. It was more of a one-way street. Now we're at this two-way street of consumers. The community wants to play a role in the energy transition. People are installing rooftop solar, they're buying EVs, maybe they're thinking of vehicle to grid and sending electricity back from their EV to the grid. And so they want to play a role, and communities have buying power. They're the ones who are embracing these technologies. They're the ones who can now enter conversations with the utility and say, hey, we want to do this. We want to be part of it. How can we contribute? So I think there's going to be a huge growth in how communities can interact with all these entities. So I think there's a lot of hope, a lot of power, and it's just coming into and embracing that power that communities have.
Yes, I like it. I like the way you describe it. It's very eloquent. Couldn't agree more. In terms of, what you're doing today, and you're young, but when you're looking back, what would you like to see happen as a result of the work you're doing and your associates?
I would like to see more people knowing how to get into the energy industry. It's something that's talked about in workforce development, of how do you let young children, teenagers, people in college know that there's all these opportunities. I stumbled my way into this industry, even though I wanted to be in energy. I think a lot of people go through it from an engineering perspective, and yet there's so many different types of jobs that can be anything from policy and policy writing. You can have law degrees and help with PPA agreements and other things. There's a lot of different ways to get into this industry, but if you don't have the younger generation knowing it's an option, they don't know how to get here. They know they can be doctors, they can be nurses, they can be engineers, teachers, but energy feels a little distant for a lot of them. And I think when you know that you can get into that role and you can move in that direction, that's a lot more empowering, because we're gonna need a lot more people this industry is growing so fast. We need more installers. We need more thought leadership. We need a lot more people who can speak to regulators. It's gonna be growing so tremendously. And I think there's a little bit of a gap of how many people are actually entering this industry.
Well, I'm very happy you stumbled into the industry, right? And in terms of other people stumbling or being a part of the process, do you think that it can be the process inclusive, just, equitable? And if so, how?
Yeah, I like to think of this example. Sometimes utilities are actually leading this too. One of them, Austin Energy, has a program where they go to schools, especially schools in disadvantaged communities, or maybe school districts that don't have as much money, and they have like a day education program where they can encourage the kids to learn more about this. They have wrapped some of their transit buses in drawings from the kids, and so it's an electric bus. The kids can see their drawings on it. So it's about this community engagement and getting into it. Utilities can do this. The community can start that conversation with utilities. They can bring in vendors. So it kind of takes, I think, a champion who's thinking of how do you grow community connections. And that's how you can get more people into it, know about it, but also have more positivity across it too.
Well, in terms of community, we're here because of the Bakersfield city, and we're here for the Destination for Innovation campaign, right? And I'm curious from your perspective, from the city perspective, and what you may know about Bakersfield, what role can Bakersfield do, or what actions can it take to become the Destination for Innovation?
Mm-hmm. I would say that having proof of concept or pilot type demonstrations for technology can be very powerful, because as utilities and vendors start to adopt new technologies, they like to see what's already been done. So if you had a vehicle to grid system where it was a home set up and it was really easy for utilities and vendors to come and see that, they probably would travel to Bakersfield to talk to the people in your community, see how it's impacting you, see that demonstration project. So I would say getting some of that federal funding, being able to put technology within your community, and that would get a lot more interest and people coming through it. And you may even get more people wanting to bring companies and have more startups and things like that in your community.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very wonderful you described it that way. That's actually some of the steps that the city is taking, bringing companies, doing pilots and demonstrations. So thank you for that. And thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I enjoyed this and it was great to be on.
And thank you for joining us. That's it for the Destination for Innovation. Be sure to connect, collaborate, and create with Brittany, and we will see you soon.